The scene remains the same throughout the play. It is the top floor of a warehouse and office building in Amsterdam, Holland. The sharply peaked roof of the building is outlined against a sea of other rooftops, stretching away into the distance. Nearby is the belfry of a church tower, the Westertoren, whose carillon rings out the hours. Occasionally, faint sounds float up from below, the voices of children playing in the street, the tramp of marching feet, a boat whistle from the canal. The 3 rooms of the top floor and a small attic space above are exposed to our view. The largest of the rooms is in the center, with 2 small rooms slightly raised on either side. On the right is a bathroom, out of sight. A narrow, steep flight of stairs at the back leads up to the attic. The rooms are sparsely furnished with a few chairs, cots, table or 2. The windows are painted over or covered with makeshift blackout curtains. In the main room there is a sink, a gas ring for cooking, and a wood-burning stove for warmth. The room on the left is hardly more than a closet. There is a skylight in the sloping ceiling. Directly under this room is a small, steep stairwell with steps leading down to a door. This is the only entrance from the building below. When the door is opened, we see that it has been concealed on the outer side by a bookcase attached to it. Act 1, Scene 1. The curtain rises on an empty stage. It is late afternoon, November 1945. The rooms are dusty, the curtains in rags. Chairs and tables are overturned. The door at the foot of the small stairwell swings open. Mr. Frank comes up the steps into view. He is a gentle, cultured European in his middle years. There is still a trace of a German accent in his speech. He stands, looking slowly around, making a supreme effort at self-control. He is weak, ill. His clothes are threadbare. After a second, he drops his rucksack on the couch and moves slowly about. He opens the door to one of the smaller rooms, and then abruptly closes it again, turning away. He goes to the window at the back, looking off at the Westertoren as its carillon strikes the hour of 6. Then he moves restlessly on. From the street below, we hear the sound of a barrel organ and children's voices at play. There is a many-colored scarf hanging from a nail. Mr. Frank takes it, putting it around his neck. As he starts back for his rucksack, his eye is caught by something lying on the floor. It is a woman's white glove. He holds it in his hand, and suddenly all of his self-control is gone. He breaks down, crying. We hear footsteps on the stairs. Miep Gies comes up, looking for Mr. Frank. Miep is a Dutch girl of about 22. She wears a coat and hat, ready to go home. She is pregnant. Her attitude toward Mr. Frank is protective, compassionate.
Are you all right, Mr. Frank?
Yes, Miep. Yes.
Everyone in the office has gone home. It's after 6. Don't stay up here, Mr. Frank. What's the use of torturing yourself like this?
I've come to say goodbye. I'm leaving here, Miep.
What do you mean? Where are you going? Where?
I don't know yet. I haven't decided.
Mr. Frank, you can't leave here. This is your home. Amsterdam is your home. Your business is here, waiting for you. You're needed here. Now that the war is over, there are things
I can't stay in Amsterdam, Miep. It has too many memories for me. Everywhere there's something. The house we lived in, the school, that street organ playing out there. I'm not the person you used to know, Miep. I'm a bitter old man. Forgive me, I shouldn't speak to you like this. After all that you did for us, the suffering...
No, it wasn't suffering. You can't say we suffered.
I know what you went through, you and Mr. Crawler. I'll remember it as long as I live. Come, Miep.
Mr. Frank, did you see? There are some of your papers here. We found them in a heap of rubbish on the floor after you left.
Burn them.
But, Mr. Frank, there are letters, Notes.
Burn them. All of them.
Burn this?
Anne's diary. Monday, the 6th of July, 1942. 1942. Is it possible, Meep? Only 3 years ago. Dear Diary, since you and I are going to be great friends, I will start by telling you about myself. My name is Anne Frank. I am 13 years old. I was born in Germany the 12th of June, 1929. As my family is Jewish, we emigrated to Holland when Hitler came to power. My father started a business importing spice and herbs. Things went well for us until 1940. Then the war came and the Dutch capitulation, followed by the arrival of the Germans.
Then things got very bad for the Jews. You could not do this and you could not do that. They forced Father out of his business. We had to wear yellow stars. I had to turn in my bike. I couldn't go to a Dutch school anymore. I couldn't go to the movies or ride in an automobile or even on a streetcar and a million other things. But somehow we children still managed to have fun. Yesterday, Father told me we were going into hiding. Where he wouldn't say. At 5 o'clock this morning, Mother woke me and told me to hurry and get dressed. I was to put on as many clothes as I could. It would look too suspicious if we walked along carrying suitcases. It wasn't until we were on our way that I learned where we were going. Our hiding place was to be upstairs in the building where Father used to have his business. 3 other people were coming in with us. The Van Dans and their son Peter. Father knew the Van Dans, but we had never met them.
Scene 2. It is early morning, July 1942. The rooms are bare as before, but they are now clean and orderly. Mr. Van Daan, a tall, portly man in his late 40s, is in the main room, pacing up and down, nervously smoking a cigarette. His clothes and overcoat are expensive and well cut. Mrs. Van Daan sits on the couch, clutching her possessions, a hatbox, bags, etc. She is a pretty woman in her early 40s. She wears a fur coat over her other clothes. Peter Van Daan is standing at the window of the room on the right, looking down at the street below. He is a shy, awkward boy of 16. He wears a cap, a raincoat, and long Dutch trousers like +4s. At his feet is a black case, a carrier for his cat. The yellow Star of David is conspicuous on all of their clothes.
Something's happened to them, I know it.
No, Carly.
Mr. Frank said they'd be here at 7 o'clock. He said...
They have 2 miles to walk. You can't expect them.
They've been picked up. That's what's happened. They've been taken.
You see?
Peter takes up his carrier and his school bag, etc., and goes into the main room as Mr. Frank comes up the stairwell from below. Mr. Frank looks much younger now. His movements are brisk, his manner confident. He wears an overcoat and carries his hat and a small cardboard box. He crosses to the Van Daans, shaking hands with each of them.
Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, Peter. There were too many of the Green Police on the streets. We had to take the long way around.
Up the steps come Margot Frank, Mrs. Frank, Miep, not pregnant now, and Mr. Crawler. All of them carry bags, packages, and so forth. The Star of David is conspicuous on all of the Franks' clothing. Margot is 18, beautiful, quiet, shy. Mrs. Frank is a young mother, gently bred, reserved. She, like Mr. Frank, has a slight German accent. Mr. Crawler is a Dutchman, dependable, kindly. As Mr. Crawler and Miep go upstage to put down their parcels, Mrs. Frank turns back to call Anne.
Anne?
Anne comes running up the stairs. She is 13, quick in her movements, interested in everything, mercurial in her emotions. She wears a cape and long wool socks and carries a school bag.
My wife, Edith, Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan, their son, Peter, my daughters, Margot and Anne.
I'm sorry, there is still so much confusion.
Please, don't think of it. After all, we'll have plenty of leisure to arrange everything ourselves.
We put the stores of food you sent in here. Your drugs are here. Soap, linen here.
Thank you, Miep.
I made up the beds, the way Mr. Frank and Mr. Crawler said. Forgive me. I have to hurry. I've got to go to the other side of town to get some ration books for you.
Ration books? If they see our names on ration books, they'll know we're here.
There isn't anything.
Don't worry. Your names won't be on them. I'll be up later.
Thank you, Meme.
It's illegal then. The ration books? We've never done anything illegal.
We won't be living here exactly according to regulations.
This isn't the black market, Mrs. Frank. This is what we call the white market, helping all of the hundreds and hundreds who are hiding out in Amsterdam.
It's the Vestertoren.
I must go. I must be out of here and downstairs in the office before the workmen get here. Meep or I, or both of us, will be up each day to bring you food and news and find out what your needs are. Tomorrow I'll get you a better bolt for the door at the foot of the stairs. It needs a bolt that you can throw yourself and open only at our signal. Oh, you'll tell them about the noise.
I'll tell them.
Goodbye, then, for the moment. I'll come up again after the workmen leave.
Goodbye, Mr. Crawler.
How can we thank you?
And don't
Thank you,
worry,
Mr. Crawler.
If you see my cat...
I never thought I'd live to see the day when a man like Mr. Frank would have to go into hiding. When you think...
What did he mean about the noise?
First, let us take off some of these clothes.
It's a wonder we weren't arrested. Walking along the streets, Petronella with a fur coat in July, and that cat of Peter's crying all the way.
A cat?
Anne, please.
It's all right. I've got on 3 more.
Now, about the noise. While the men are in the building below, we must have complete quiet. Every sound can be heard down there, not only in the workrooms, but in the offices too. The men come at about 8:30 and leave at about 5:30. So to be perfectly safe, from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening we must move only when it is necessary, and then in stockinged feet. We must not speak above a whisper. We must not run any water. We cannot use the sink, or even, forgive me, the WC. The pipes go down through the workrooms. It will be heard. No trash... No trash must ever be thrown out which might reveal that someone is living up here, not even a potato paring. We must burn everything in the stove at night. This is the way we must live until it is over, if we are to survive.
Until it is over.
After 6, we can move about. We can talk and laugh and have our supper and read and play games, just as we would at home. And now I think it would be wise if we all went to our rooms and were settled before 8 o'clock. Mrs. Van Daan, you and your husband will be upstairs. I regret that there's no place up there for Peter, but he will be here, near us. This will be our common room, where we'll meet to talk and eat and read, like one family.
And where do you and Mrs. Frank sleep?
This room is also our bedroom.
That isn't right. We'll sleep here, and you take the room upstairs.
It's your place.
Please, I've thought this out for weeks. It's the best arrangement, the only arrangement.
Never, never can we thank you. I don't know what would have happened to us if it hadn't been for Mr. Frank.
You don't know how your husband helped me when I came to this country. Knowing no one, not able to speak the language. I can never repay him for that. May I help you with your things?
No. Come along, Alethea.
You'll be all right, Peter. You're not afraid.
Please, Mother.
You too must have some rest, Edith. You didn't close your eyes last night. Nor you, Margot.
I slept, Father. Wasn't that funny? I knew it was the last night in my own bed, and yet I slept soundly.
I'm glad, Anne. Now you'll be able to help me straighten things in here. Come with me. You and Margot rest in this room for the time being.
You're sure? I could help, and Anne hasn't had her milk.
I'll give it to her. Anne, Peter, it's best that you take off your shoes now before you forget.
You're sure you're not tired, Anne?
I feel fine. I'm going to help Father.
Peter, I'm glad you are to be with us.
Yes, Mrs. Frank.
What's your cat's name?
Mushi?
Mushy. Mushy. I love cats. I have one, a darling little cat. But they made me leave her behind. I left some food and a note for the neighbors to take care of her. I'm going to miss her terribly. What is yours? A him or a her?
He's a Tom. He doesn't like strangers.
Then I'll have to stop being a stranger, won't I? Is he fixed?
Huh?
Did you have him fixed?
No.
Oh. You ought to have him fixed. To keep him from, fighting. Where did you go to school?
Jewish secondary.
But that's where Margot and I go. I never saw you around.
I used to see you Sometimes.
You did?
In the schoolyard. You were always in the middle of a bunch of kids.
Why didn't you ever come over?
I'm sort of a lone wolf.
What are you doing?
Taking it off?
But you can't do that. They'll arrest you if you go out without your star.
Who's going out?
Why, of course. You're right. Of course we don't need them anymore. I wonder what our friends will think when we don't show up today.
I didn't have any dates with anyone.
Oh, I did. I had a date with Yopi to go and play ping pong at her house. Do you know Yopi Duvall?
No.
Yopi's my best friend. I wonder what she'll think when she telephones and there's no answer. Probably she'll go over to the house. I wonder what she'll think. We left everything as if we'd suddenly been called away. Breakfast dishes in the sink, bed's not made. Look, it's still there. What are you going to do with yours?
Burn it.
It's funny. I can't throw mine away. I don't know why.
You can't throw something they branded you with that they made you wear so they could spit on you?
I know. But after all, it is the Star of David, isn't it?
Maybe it's different for a girl.
Forgive me, Peter. Now let me see. We must find a bed for your cat. I'm glad you brought your cat. Annie was feeling so badly about hers. Here we are. Will it be comfortable in that?
Thanks.
And here is your room. But I warn you, Peter, you can't grow anymore. Not an inch. Or you'll have to sleep with your feet out of the skylight. Are you hungry?
No.
We have some bread and butter.
No, thank you.
You can have it for luncheon, then. And tonight we will have a real supper. Our first supper together.
Thanks. Thanks.
That's a nice boy, Peter.
He's awfully shy, isn't he?
You'll like him, I know.
I certainly hope so, since he's the only boy I'm likely to see for months and months.
Anila, there's a box there. Will you open it?
You know the way I'm going to think of it here? I'm going to think of it as a boarding house. A very peculiar summer boarding house, like the one that we... Father! My movie stars! I was wondering where they were. I was looking for them this morning. And Queen Wilhelmina. How wonderful.
There's something more. Go on. Look further.
A diary. I've never had a diary, and I've always longed for one. Pencil. Pencil, pencil, pencil. I'm going down to the office to get a pencil.
On! No!
But there's no one in the building now.
It doesn't matter. I don't want you ever to go beyond that door.
Never. Not even at nighttime when everyone is gone? Or on Sundays, can I go down to listen to the radio?
Never. I am sorry, Annika. It isn't safe. No, you must never go beyond that door.
I see.
It'll be hard, I know. But always remember this, Annika. There are no walls, there are no bolts, no locks that anyone can put on your mind. Meep will bring us books. We will read history, poetry, mythology. Here's your milk. As a matter of fact, between us, Anne, being here has certain advantages for you. For instance, you remember the battle you had with your mother the other day on the subject of overshoes, but in the end you had to wear them? Well, now, you see, for as long as we are here, you will never have to wear overshoes. Isn't that good? And the coat that you inherited from Margot, you won't have to wear that anymore. And the piano, you won't have to practice on the piano. I tell you, this is going to be a fine life for you.
I thought I'd better get some water for Mushi before...
Of course.
As he starts toward the sink, the carillon begins to chime the hour of 8. He tiptoes to the window at the back and looks down at the street below. He turns to Peter, indicating in pantomime that it is too late. Peter starts back for his room. He steps on a creaking board. The three of them are frozen for a minute in fear. As Peter starts away again, Anne tiptoes over to him and pours some of the milk from her glass into the saucer for the cat. Peter squats on the floor, putting the milk before the cat. Mr. Frank gives Anne his fountain pen and then goes into the room at the right. For a second, Anne watches the cat. Then she goes over to the center table and opens her diary. In the room at the right, Mrs. Frank has sat up quickly at the sound of the carillon. Mr. Frank comes in and sits down beside her on the settee, his arm comfortingly around her. Upstairs, in the attic room, Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan have hung their clothes in the closet and are now seated on the iron bed. Mrs. Van Daan leans back exhausted. Mr. Van Daan fans her with a newspaper. Anne starts to write in her diary. The lights dim out. The curtain falls. In the darkness, Anne's voice comes to us again, faintly at first, and then with growing strength.
I expect I should be describing what it feels like to go into hiding. But I really don't know yet myself. I only know it's funny never to be able to go outdoors, never to breathe fresh air, never to run and shout and jump. It's the silence in the nights that frightens me most. Every time I hear a creak in the house or a step on the street outside, I'm sure they're coming for us. The days aren't so bad. At least we know that Meep and Mr. Crawler are down there below us in the office. Our protectors, we call them. I asked Father what would happen to them if the Nazis found out they were hiding us. Pim said that they would suffer the same fate that we would. Imagine! They know this, and yet when they come up here, they're always cheerful and gay as if there were nothing in the world to bother them. Friday, the 21st of August, 1942. Today, I'm going to tell you our general news. Mother is unbearable. She insists on treating me like a baby, which I loathe. Otherwise, things are going better. The weather is...
Scene 3. It is a little after 6 o'clock in the evening, 2 months later. Margot is in the bedroom at the right, studying. Mr. Van Daan is lying down in the attic room above. The rest of the family is in the main room. Anne and Peter sit opposite each other at the center table, where they have been doing their lessons. Mrs. Frank is on the couch. Mrs. Van Daan is seated with her fur coat, on which she has been sewing, in her lap. None of them are wearing their shoes. Their eyes are on Mr. Frank, waiting for him to give them the signal which will release them from their day-long quiet. Mr. Frank, his shoes in his hand, stands looking down out of the window at the back, watching to be sure that all of the workmen have left the building below. After a few seconds of motionless silence, Mr. Frank turns from the window.
It's safe now. The last workman has left.
Whee! Anne?
I'm first for the WC.
6 o'clock. School's over.
Have you seen my shoes?
Your shoes?
You've taken them, haven't you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're going to be sorry.
Am I?
Anne, dear.
Wait till I get you.
I'm waiting. Don't! Don't! Peter, stop it! Ouch!
Anne! Peter!
Peter, where are you going? Come dance with me.
I tell you I don't know how.
I'll teach you.
I'm going to give Mushi his dinner.
Can I watch?
He doesn't like people around while he eats.
Peter, please.
No.
Anne, dear, I think you shouldn't play like that with Peter. It's not dignified.
Who cares if it's dignified? I don't want to be dignified.
You complain that I don't treat you like a grown-up, but when I do, you resent it.
I only want some fun. Someone to laugh and clown with. After you've sat still all day and hardly moved, you've got to have some fun. I don't know what's the matter with that boy.
He isn't used to girls. Give him a little time.
Time? Isn't 2 months time? I could cry. Come on, Margot. Dance with me. Come on, please.
I have to help with supper.
You know, we're going to forget how to dance. When we get out, we won't remember a thing. Ba-dum, 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 bum, bum. Ba-dum,
Next.
ba-dum,
Where's Peter?
bum. Where would he be? Ba-dum,
He hasn't finished his lessons, has he?
ba-dum,
His father'll kill him if he catches him in there with that cat and his work not done.
bum, bum.
Anne, get him out of there, will you?
Peter! Peter!
What is it?
Your mother says to come out.
I'm giving Mushi his dinner.
You know what your father says.
For heaven's sake, I haven't even looked at him since lunch.
I'm just telling you, that's all.
I'll feed him.
I don't want you in there.
Peter?
Then give him his dinner and come right out. You hear?
Now, is that any way to talk to your little girlfriend?
Mother, for heaven's sake, will you please stop saying that?
Look at him blush. Look at him.
Please, I'm not... Anyway, let me alone, will you?
He acts like it was something to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be ashamed of, to have a little girlfriend.
You're crazy. She's only 13.
So what? And you're 16. Just perfect. Your father's 10 years older than I am. I warn you, Mr. Franck, if this war lasts much longer, we're going to be related, and then...
Mazel tov.
I wonder where Meep is. She's usually so prompt.
Suddenly, everything else is forgotten as they hear the sound of an automobile coming to a screeching stop in the street below. They are tense, motionless in their terror. The car starts away. A wave of relief sweeps over them. They pick up their occupations again. Anne flings open the door of Peter's room, making a dramatic entrance. She is dressed in Peter's clothes. Peter looks at her in fury. The others are amused.
Good evening, everyone. Forgive me if I don't stay. I have a friend waiting for me in there. My friend Tom. Tomcat. Some people say that we look alike. But Tom has the most beautiful whiskers, and I have only a little fuzz. I am hoping, in time...
All right, Mrs. Quack Quack.
Peter!
I heard about you. How you talked so much in class they called you Mrs. Quack Quack. How Mr. Smitter made you write a composition. Quack Quack, said Mrs. Quack Quack.
Well, go on. Tell them the rest. How it was so good he read it out loud to the class and then read it to all his other classes.
Quack, 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 quack.
You are the most intolerable, insufferable boy I've ever met.
Quack, quack, quack.
That's right, Annika. Give it to him.
With all the boys in the world. Why I had to get locked up with one like you.
Quack, quack, quack. And from now on, stay out of my room.
Anne, dear, your hair... You're warm. Are you feeling all right?
Please, Mother.
You haven't a fever, have you?
No.
You know we can't call a doctor here, ever. There's only one thing to do. Watch carefully. Prevent an illness before it comes. Let me see your tongue.
Mother, this is perfectly absurd.
Anne, dear, don't be such a baby. Let me see your tongue. Otto!
You hear your mother, Anne.
Come on, open up. You seem all right, but perhaps an aspirin.
For heaven's sake, don't give that child any pills. I waited for 15 minutes this morning for her to come out of the WC.
I was washing my hair.
I think there's nothing the matter with our Anne that a ride on her bike or a visit with her friend Yopi Duval wouldn't cure. Isn't that so, Anne?
Meep not come yet?
The workman just left a little while ago.
What's for dinner tonight?
Beans.
Not again.
Poor Pootie, I know, but what can we do? That's all that Meep brought us.
We are now in what is known as the bean cycle. Beans boiled, beans on casserole, beans with strings, beans without strings.
I saw you in there playing with your cat.
He just went in for a second, putting his coat away. He's been out here all the time, doing his lessons.
Anne, you got an excellent in your history paper today, and very good in Latin.
How about algebra?
I'll have to make a confession. Up until now, I've managed to stay ahead of you in algebra. Today, you caught up with me. We'll leave it to Margot to correct.
Isn't algebra vile, Pim?
Vile.
How did I do?
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent.
You should have used the subjunctive here.
Should I? I thought... Look here. I didn't use it here.
Mrs. Von Don, may I try on your coat?
No, Anne.
It's all right, but careful with it. My father gave me that the year before he died. He always bought the best that money could buy.
Mrs. Von Don, did you have a lot of boyfriends before you were married?
Anne, that's a personal question. It's not courteous to ask personal questions.
Oh, I don't mind. Our house was always swarming with boys. When I was a girl, we had...
Oh, God, not again.
Shut up. One summer, we had a big house in Hilversum. The boys came buzzing round like bees around a jam pot. And when I was 16, we were wearing our skirts very short those days, and I had good-looking legs. I still have 'em. I may not be as pretty as I used to be, but I still have my legs. How about it, Mr. Franck?
All right, we see them.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking Mr. Franck.
Mother, for heaven's sake.
Oh, I embarrass you, do I? Well, I just hope the girl you marry has as good. My father used to worry about me with so many boys hanging round. He told me, If any of them gets fresh, you say to him, "Remember, Mr. So-and-so, remember, I'm a lady."
Remember, Mr. So-and-so. Remember, I'm a lady.
Look at you, talking that way in front of her. Don't you know she puts it all down in that diary?
So, if she does, I'm only telling the truth.
Would you mind, Peter, if I moved you over to the couch?
Meep must have the radio on.
Haven't you finished yet?
No.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
All right, I'm a dunce. I'm a hopeless case. Why do I go on?
You're not hopeless. Don't talk that way. It's just that you haven't anyone to help you like the girls have. Maybe you could help him, Mr. Franck.
I'm sure that his father...
Not me. I can't do anything with him. He won't listen to me. You go ahead if you want.
What about it, Peter? Shall we make our school coeducational?
You're an angel, Mr. Franck, an angel. I don't know why I didn't meet you before I met that one there. Here, sit down, Mr. Franck. Now, Peter, you listen to Mr. Franck.
It might be better for us to go into Peter's room.
That's right. You go in there, Peter. You listen to Mr. Franck. Mr. Franck is a highly educated man.
Shh. I can hear a man's voice talking.
Isn't it bad enough here without your sprawling all over the place?
If you didn't smoke so much, you wouldn't be so bad-tempered.
Am I smoking? Do you see me smoking?
Don't tell me you've used up all those cigarettes.
One package. Meep only brought me one package.
It's a filthy habit anyway. It's a good time to break yourself.
Oh, stop it, please.
Will you shut up? And what are you staring at?
I never heard grown-ups quarrel before. I thought only children quarreled.
This isn't a quarrel. It's a discussion. And I never heard children so rude before.
I rude?
Yes.
Anne, will you get me my knitting? I must remember when Meep comes to ask her to bring me some more wool.
I need some hairpins and some soap. I made a list.
Have you some library books for Meep when she comes?
It's a wonder that Meep has a life of her own, the way we make her run errands for us. Please, Meep, give me some starch. Please take my hair out and have it cut. Tell me all the latest news, Meep. Did you know she was engaged? His name is Dirk, and Meep's afraid the Nazis will ship him off to Germany to work in one of their war plants. That's what they're doing with some of the young Dutchmen. They pick them up off the streets.
Don't you ever get tired of talking? Suppose you try keeping still for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes.
Come here, Anne. It's time for your glass of milk.
Talk, talk, talk. I never heard such a child. Where's my... Every evening it's the same talk, talk, talk. Where's my...
What are you looking for?
My pipe. Have you seen my pipe?
What good's a pipe? You haven't got any tobacco.
At least I'll have something to hold in my mouth. Margot, have you seen my pipe?
It was on the table last night.
I know. Anne, did you see my pipe? Anne.
Anne, Mr. Van Daan is speaking to you.
Am I allowed to talk now?
You're the most aggravating... The trouble with you is you've been spoiled. What you need is a good old-fashioned spanking.
Remember, Mr. So-and-so. Remember, I'm a lady.
Why aren't you nice and quiet like your sister Margot? Why do you have to show off all the time? Let me give you a little advice, young lady. Men don't like that kind of thing in a girl. You know that? A man likes a girl who will listen to him once in a while. A domestic girl who will keep her house shining for her husband. Who loves to cook and sew and...
I'd cut my throat first. I'd open my veins. I'm going to be remarkable. I'm going to Paris to study music and art.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a famous dancer or singer or something wonderful.
Now look what you've done, you clumsy little fool. My beautiful fur coat my father gave me.
I'm so sorry.
What do you care? It isn't yours, so go on, ruin it. Do you know what that coat cost? Do you? And now look at it. Look at it!
I'm very, very sorry.
I could kill you for this. I could just kill you.
Petronella! Leafia! Come back! The supper! Come back!
Anne, you must not behave in that way.
It was an accident. Anyone can have an accident.
I don't mean that. I mean the answering back. You must not answer back. They are our guests. We must always show the greatest courtesy to them. We're all living under terrible tension. That's why we must control ourselves. You don't hear Margot getting into arguments with them, do you? Watch Margot. She's always courteous with them, never familiar. She keeps her distance, and they respect her for it. Try to be like Margot.
And have them walk all over me the way they do her? No thanks.
I'm not afraid that anyone is going to walk all over you, Anne. I'm afraid for other people, that you'll walk on them. I don't know what happens to you, Anne. You are wild, self-willed. If I had ever talked to my mother as you talk to me...
Things have changed. People aren't like that anymore. Yes, Mother. No, Mother. Anything you say, Mother. I've got to fight things out for myself. Make something of myself.
It isn't necessary to fight to do it. Margot doesn't fight, and isn't she...
Margot, Margot, Margot. That's all I hear from everyone. How wonderful Margot is. Why aren't you like Margot?
Oh, come on, Anne. Don't be so...
Everything she does is right, and everything I do is wrong. I'm the goat around here. You're all against me, and you're worst of all.
Let's put the soup on the stove. If there's anyone who cares to eat. Margot, will you take the bread out? I don't know how we can go on living this way. I can't say a word to Anne. She flies at me.
You know, Anne. In half an hour she'll be out here laughing and joking.
And I told your father it wouldn't work, but no, he had to ask them, he said. He owed it to him, he said. Well, he knows now that I was right. These quarrels, this bickering.
Shush. Shush.
Every time I hear that sound, my heart stops.
It's Meep. Father?
Thank you, Margot. Has everyone his list?
I'll get my books. Here's your list. Meep's here.
Is it Meep?
Yes. Father's gone down to let her in.
At last I'll have some cigarettes.
I can't tell you how unhappy I am about Mrs. Van Daan's coat. Anne should never have touched it.
She'll be all right.
Is there anything I can do?
Don't worry.
Mr. Crawler!
How are you, Mr. Crawler?
This is a surprise?
When Mr. Crawler comes, the sun begins to shine.
Meep is coming?
Not tonight.
Wouldn't you like a cup of coffee? Or better still, will you have supper with us?
Mr. Crawler has something to talk over with us. Something has happened, he says, which demands an immediate decision.
What is it?
Usually when I come up here, I try to bring you some bit of good news. What's the use of telling you the bad news when there's nothing that you can do about it? But today something has happened. Dirk, Meep's Dirk, you know, came to me just now. He tells me that he has a Jewish friend living near him, a dentist. He says he's in trouble. He begged me, could I do anything for this man? Could I find him a hiding place? So I've come to you. I know it's a terrible thing to ask of you, living as you are, but would you take him in with you?
Of course we will.
It'll be just for a night or two, until I find some other place. This happened so suddenly that I didn't know where to turn.
Where is he?
Downstairs in the office.
Good. Bring him up.
His name is Dussel. Jan Dussel.
Dussel. I think I know him.
I'll get him.
Forgive me, I spoke without consulting you, but I knew you'd feel as I do.
There's no reason for you to consult anyone. This is your place. You have a right to do exactly as you please. The only thing I feel, there's so little food as it is, and to take in another person.
We can stretch the food a little. It's only for a few days.
You want to make a bet?
I think it's fine to have him. But, Otto, where are you going to put him? Where?
He can have my bed. I can sleep on the floor. I wouldn't mind.
That's good of you, Peter, but your room's too small, even for you.
I have a much better idea. I'll come in here with you and Mother, and Margot can take Peter's room, and Peter can go in our room with Mr. Dussel.
That's right. We could do that.
No, Margot. You mustn't sleep in that room, neither you nor Anne. Mushy has caught some rats in there. Peter's brave. He doesn't mind.
Then how about this? I'll come in here with you and Mother, and Mr. Dussel can have my bed.
No. Margot will come in here with us, and he can have her bed. It's the only way. Margot, bring your things in here. Help her on.
Why, Margot? Why can't I come in here?
Because it wouldn't be proper for Margot to sleep with a... Please, Anne, don't argue. Please.
You don't mind sharing your room with Mr. Dussel, do you, Anne?
No, of course not.
Good. Where's the cognac?
It's there. But, Otto, I was saving it in case of illness.
I think we couldn't find a better time to use it. Peter, will you get 5 glasses for me?
What's happening? What's going on?
Someone's moving in with us.
In here? You're joking.
It's only for a night or two, until Mr. Crawler finds him another place.
Yeah.
Come in, Mr. Dussel.
This is Mr. Frank.
Mr. Otto Frank?
Yes. Let me take your things. This is my wife, Edith, Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan, their son, Peter, and my daughters, Margot and Anne.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Thank you all. Mr. Dussel, I leave you in good hands. Oh, Dirk's coat.
What can I say to thank you?
Mr. Crawler and Miep, they're our lifeline. Without them, we couldn't live.
Please, please. You make us seem very heroic. It isn't that at all. We simply don't like the Nazis. No thanks. We don't like their methods. We don't like...
I know. No one's going to tell us Dutchmen what to do with our damn Jews.
Pay no attention to Mr. Frank. I'll be up tomorrow to see that they're treating you right. Don't trouble to come down again. Peter will bolt the door after me, won't you, Peter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Peter. I'll do it.
Good night. Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
Mr.
Mr.
Crawler.
Crawler.
Thank you very much for coming.
Please, Mr. Dussel, sit down.
I'm dreaming. I know it. I can't believe my eyes. Mr. Otto Frank here. You're not in Switzerland, then? A woman told me. She said she'd gone to your house. The door was open. Everything was in disorder. Dishes in the sink. She said she found a piece of paper in the wastebasket with an address scribbled on it. An address in Zurich. She said you must have escaped to Zurich.
Father put that there purposely, just so people would think that very thing.
And you've been here all the time?
All the time, ever since July.
It worked, Pim. The address you left. Mr. Dussel says that people believe we escaped to Switzerland.
I'm glad. And now let's have a little drink to welcome Mr. Dussel. To Mr. Dussel, welcome. We're very honored to have you with us.
To Mr. Dussel, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
That was good.
Did Mr. Crawler warn you that you won't get much to eat here? You can imagine, 3 ration books among the 7 of us. And now you make 8.
Mr. Van Daan, you don't realize what is happening outside, that you should warn me of a thing like that. You don't realize what's going on. Right here, in Amsterdam, every day, hundreds of Jews disappear. They surround a block and search house by house. Children come home from school to find their parents gone. Hundreds are being deported. People that you and I know, the Hollensteins, the Wesels.
Oh, no.
They get their call-up notice. Come to the Jewish theater on such and such a day and hour. Bring only what you can carry in a rucksack. And if you refuse the call-up notice, then they come and drag you from your home and ship you off to Mauthausen, the death camp.
We didn't know that things had got so much worse.
Forgive me for speaking so.
Do you know the Duvals? What's become of them? Their daughter Yopi and I are in the same class. Yopi's my best friend.
They are gone.
Gone?
With all the others.
Oh, no. Not Yopi.
There were some people called Wagner. They lived near us.
I think we should put this off until later. We all have many questions we want to ask. But I'm sure that Mr. Dussel would like to get settled before supper.
Thank you. I would. I brought very little with me.
I'm sorry we can't give you a room alone, but I hope you won't be too uncomfortable. We've had to make strict rules here, a schedule of hours. We'll tell you after supper. Anne, would you like to take Mr. Dussel to his room?
If you'll come with me, Mr. Dussel.
Forgive me if I haven't really expressed my gratitude to all of you. This has been such a shock to me. I'd always thought of myself as Dutch. I was born in Holland. My father was born in Holland, and my grandfather. And now, after all these years, if you'll excuse me.
Well, here we are.
The news sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? It's so different from what Mr. Crawler tells us. Mr. Crawler says things are improving.
I like it better, the way Crawler tells it.
You're going to share the room with me.
I'm a man who's always lived alone. I haven't had to adjust myself to others. I hope you'll bear with me until I learn.
Let me help you. Do you always live all alone? Have you no family at all?
No one.
How dreadful. You must be terribly lonely.
I'm used to it.
I don't think I could ever get used to it. Didn't you even have a pet? A cat or a dog?
I have an allergy for fur-bearing animals. They give me asthma.
Oh, dear. Peter has a cat.
Here? He has it here?
Yes. but we hardly ever see it. He keeps it in his room all the time. I'm sure it will be all right.
Let us hope so.
That's Margot's bed, where you're going to sleep. I sleep on the sofa there. We cleared these off for your things. The best part about this room, you can look down and see a bit of the street and the canal. There's a houseboat. You can see the end of it. A bargeman lives there with his family. They have a baby, and he's just beginning to walk, and I'm so afraid he's going to fall into the canal someday. I watch him.
Your father spoke of a schedule?
Oh, yes. It's mostly about the times we have to be quiet, and times for the WC. You can use it now if you like.
No, thank you.
I suppose you think it's awful, my talking about a thing like that. But you don't know how important it can get to be, especially when you're frightened. About this room, the way Margot and I did, she had it to herself in the afternoons for studying, reading, lessons, you know. And I took the mornings. Would that be all right with you?
I'm not at my best in the morning.
You stay here in the mornings, then. I'll take the room in the afternoons.
Tell me, when you're in here, what happens to me? Where am I spending my time? In there with all the people?
Yes.
I see.
We have supper at 6:30.
Then, if you don't mind, I like to lie down quietly for 10 minutes before eating. I find it helps the digestion.
Of course. I hope I'm not going to be too much of a bother to you. I seem to be able to get everyone's back up.
I always get along very well with children. My patients all bring their children to me because they know I get on well with them. So don't you worry about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dussel. And yesterday, I finished Sissy von Marksvelt's latest book. I think she is a first-class writer. I shall definitely let my children read her. Monday, the 21st of September, 1942. Mr. Dussel and I had another battle yesterday. Yes, Mr. Dussel. According to him, nothing, I repeat, nothing is right about me. My appearance, my character, my manners. While he was going on at me, I thought, sometime I'll give you such a smack that you'll fly right up to the ceiling. Why is it that every grown-up thinks he knows the way to bring up children, particularly the grown-ups that never had any? I keep wishing that Peter was a girl instead of a boy. Then I would have someone to talk to. Margot's a darling, but she takes everything too seriously. To pause for a moment on the subject of Mrs. Von Don, I must tell you that her attempts to flirt with Father are getting her nowhere. Pim, thank goodness, won't play.
Scene 4. It is the middle of the night, several months later. The stage is dark except for a little light which comes through the skylight in Peter's room. Everyone is in bed. Mr. and Mrs. Frank lie on the couch in the main room, which has been pulled out to serve as a makeshift double bed. Margot is sleeping on a mattress on the floor in the main room, behind a curtain stretched across for privacy. The others are all in their accustomed rooms. From outside we hear 2 drunken soldiers singing Lily Marlene. A girl's high giggle is heard. The sound of running feet is heard, coming closer and then fading in the distance. Throughout the scene there is a distant sound of airplanes passing overhead. A match suddenly flares up in the attic. We dimly see Mr. Van Daan. He is getting his bearings. He comes quickly down the stairs and goes to the cupboard where the food is stored. Again, the match flares up, and is as quickly blown out. The dim figure is seen to steal back up the stairs. There is quiet for a second or two, broken only by the sound of airplanes and running feet on the street below. Suddenly, out of the silence and the dark, we hear Anne scream.
No, don't take me.
Shush!
No,
Anne!
save
Anne,
me.
for God's sake!
Save
Shush!
me, please.
For God's sake, quiet! Quiet! You want someone to hear?
Hush, darling, hush. It's all right. It's all right. Will you be kind enough to turn on the light, Mr. Dussel? It's nothing, my darling. It was just a dream.
Something must be done about that child, Mrs. Frank. Yelling like that. Who knows but there's somebody on the streets. She's endangering all our lives.
Darling.
Every night she twists and turns. I don't sleep. I spend half my nights shushing her, and now it's nightmares.
You're here, safe. You see? Nothing has happened. Please, Mr. Dussel, go back to bed. She'll be herself in a minute or two. Won't you, Anne?
Thank you, but I'm going to the WC, the one place where there's peace.
What is it? What's happened?
A nightmare. She was having a nightmare.
I thought someone was murdering her.
Unfortunately, no.
Thank you, Peter. Go back to bed.
Would you like some water? Was it a very bad dream? Perhaps if you told me...
I'd rather not talk about it.
Poor darling. Try to sleep then. I'll sit right here beside you until you fall asleep.
You don't have to.
But I'd like to stay with you very much, really.
I'd rather you didn't.
Good night, then. You'll be all right. There's nothing that you want.
Will you please ask Father to come?
Of course, Anne, dear. Sie verlangt nach dir.
Edith, liebe Schau.
Es macht nicht. Ich danke dem lieben Herrgott, dass sie sich wenigstens an dich wendet, wenn sie Trost braucht. Geh hinein, oder sie ist ganz hysterisch vor Angst. Geh zu ihr. She wants nothing of me. She pulled away when I leaned down to kiss her.
It's a phase. You heard Father? Most girls go through it. They turn to their fathers at this age. They give all their love to their fathers.
You weren't like this. You didn't shut me out.
She'll get over it.
Oh, Pim, I dreamed that they came to get us, the Green Police. They broke down the door and grabbed me and started to drag me out the way they did Yofi.
I want you to take this pill.
What is it?
Something to quiet you. Do you want me to read to you for a while?
No. Just sit with me for a minute. Was I awful? Did I yell terribly loud? Do you think anyone outside could have heard?
No. No. Lie quietly now. Try to sleep.
I'm a terrible coward. I'm so disappointed in myself. I think I've conquered my fear. I think I'm really grown up. And then something happens, and I run to you like a baby. I love you, Father. I don't love anyone but you.
Annala.
It's true. I've been thinking about it for a long time. You're the only one I love.
Well, it's fine to hear you tell me that you love me, but I'd be happier if you said you loved your mother as well. She needs your help so much. Your love.
We have nothing in common. She doesn't understand me. Whenever I try to explain my views on life to her, she asks me if I'm constipated.
You hurt her very much just now. She's crying. She's in there crying.
I can't help it. I only told the truth. I didn't want her here. Oh, Pim, I was horrible, wasn't I? And the worst of it is, I can stand off and look at myself doing it and know it's cruel, and yet I can't stop doing it. What's the matter with me? Tell me. Don't say it's just a phase. Help me.
There's so little that we parents can do to help our children. We can only try to set a good example, point the way. The rest you must do yourself. You must build your own character.
I'm trying. Really, I am. Every night I think back over all of the things I did that day that were wrong. Like putting the wet mop in Mr. Dussel's bed. And this thing now with Mother. I say to myself, that was wrong. I make up my mind I'm never going to do that again. Never. Of course, I may do something worse. But at least I'll never do that again. I have a nicer side. Father, a sweeter, nicer side. But I'm scared to show it. I'm afraid that people are going to laugh at me if I'm serious. So the mean on comes to the outside, and the good on stays on the inside. And I keep on trying to switch them around and have the good on outside and the bad on inside and be what I'd like to be and might be. If only. Only. The air raids are getting worse. They come over day and night. The noise is terrifying. Pim says it should be music to our ears. The more planes, the sooner will come the end of the war. Mrs. Von Don pretends to be a fatalist. What will be, will be. But when the planes come over, who is the most frightened? No one else but Petronella. Monday, the 9th of November, 1942. Wonderful news. The Allies have landed in Africa. Pim says that we can look for an early finish to the war. Just for fun, he asked each of us what was the first thing we wanted to do when we got out of here. Mrs. Von Don longs to be home with her own things, her needlepoint chairs, the Bechstein piano her father gave her. The best that money could buy. Peter would like to go to a movie. Mr. Dussel wants to get back to his dentist drill. He's afraid he is losing his touch. For myself, there are so many things. To ride a bike again. To laugh till my belly aches. To have new clothes from the skin out. To have a hot tub filled to overflowing and wallow in it for hours. To be back in school with my friends.
Scene 5. It is the first night of the Hanukkah celebration. Mr. Frank is standing at the head of the table on which is the menorah. He lights the shamos, or servant candle, and holds it as he says the blessing. Seated listening is all of the family, dressed in their best. The men wear hats, Peter wears his cap.
Praised be thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with thy commandments and bidden us kindle the Hanukkah lights. Praised be thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has wrought wondrous deliverances for our fathers in days of old. Praised be thou, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, that thou hast given us life and sustenance and brought us to this happy season. We kindle this Hanukkah light to celebrate the great and wonderful deeds wrought through the zeal with which God filled the hearts of the heroic Maccabees 2,000 years ago. They fought against indifference, against tyranny and oppression, and they restored our temple to us. May these lights remind us that we should ever look to God, whence cometh our help. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I lift up mine eyes unto the mountains, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. He that keepeth Israel doth neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall keep thee from all evil. He shall keep thy soul. The Lord shall guard thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and forevermore. Amen.
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 That was very moving.
It isn't over yet.
Sit down, sit down.
There's a lot more songs and presents.
Presents?
Not this year, unfortunately.
But always on Hanukkah, everyone gives presents. Everyone.
Like our St. Nicholas's Day.
No. Mr. Dussel.
No, not like St. Nicholas. What kind of a Jew are you that you don't know Hanukkah?
I remember particularly the candles. First one, as we have tonight. Then the second night you light 2 candles, the next night 3, and so on until you have 8 candles burning. When there are 8 candles, it is truly beautiful.
And the potato pancakes.
Don't talk about them.
I make the best latkes you ever tasted.
Invite us all next year in your own home.
God willing.
God willing.
What I remember best is the presents we used to get when we were little. 8 days of presents. And each day they got better and better.
We are all here alive. That is present enough.
No, it isn't. I got something.
What is it?
Presents.
Presents?
Look!
What's she got on her head?
A lampshade.
This is for Margot. Read it out loud.
You have never lost your temper. You never will, I fear. You are so good. But if you should, put all your crosswords here. A new crossword puzzle book? Where did you get it?
It isn't new. It's one that you've done, but I rubbed it all out, and if you wait a little and forget, you can do it all over again.
It's wonderful, Anne. Thank you. You'd never know it wasn't new.
Mrs. Von Don?
This is awful. I haven't anything for anyone. I never thought...
This is all Ann's idea.
What is it?
It's hair shampoo. I took all the odds and ends of soap and mixed them with the last of my toilet water.
Oh, Annika.
I wanted to write a poem for all of them, but I didn't have time. Yours, Mr. Von Don, is really something. Something you want more than anything. Look, cigarettes!
Cigarettes!
2 of them. Pim found some old pipe tobacco in the pocket lining of his coat, and we made them. Or rather, Pim did.
Let me see. Well, look at that. Light it, Pooty, light it.
It's tobacco. Really it is. There's a little fluff in it, but not much.
It works.
Look at him.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you.
For Mother. Hanukkah greeting.
Here's an IOU that I promise to pay. 10 hours of doing whatever you say. Signed, Anne Frank.
10 hours of doing what you're told? Anything you're told?
That's right.
You wouldn't want to sell that, Mrs. Frank?
Never. This is the most precious gift I've ever had.
For Pim.
Hanukkah, I wasn't supposed to have a present.
It's a muffler. To put round your neck like an ascot, you know. I made it myself out of odds and ends. I knitted it in the dark each night after I'd gone to bed. I'm afraid it looks better in the dark.
It's fine. It fits me perfectly. Thank you, Annala.
That's for Mushi.
On behalf of Mushi, I thank you.
And this is yours. From Mrs. Quack Quack. Well, open it. Aren't you going to open it?
I'm scared to. I know something's going to jump out and hit me.
No, it's nothing like that, really.
What is it, Peter? Go on, show it.
It's a safety razor.
A what?
A razor.
You didn't make that out of odds and ends.
Meep got it for me. It's not new, it's secondhand, but you really do need a razor now.
For what?
Look on his upper lip. You can see the beginning of a mustache.
He wants to get rid of that? Put a little milk on it and let the cat lick it off.
Think you're funny, don't you?
Look, he can't wait. He's going in to try it.
I'm going to give Mushi his present.
Mushi, Mushi, Mushi.
And last, but never least, my roommate, Mr. Dussel.
For me? You have something for me?
I made them myself.
Capsules. 2 capsules.
They're earplugs.
Earplugs?
To put in your ears so you won't hear me when I thrash around at night. I saw them advertised in a magazine. They're not real ones. I made them out of cotton and candle wax. Try them. See if they don't work. See if you can hear me talk.
Wait now, until I get them in. So?
Are you ready?
Huh?
Are you ready?
Good God, they've gone inside. I can't get them out. Thank you, Ann. Thank you.
A real Hanukkah.
Wasn't it cute of her?
I don't know when she did it.
I love my present.
And now let's have the song, Father. Please? Have you heard the Hanukkah song, Mr. Dussel? The song is the whole thing. Oh, Hanukkah, the sweet celebration.
I'm afraid, Ann, we shouldn't sing that song tonight. It's a song of jubilation, of rejoicing. One is apt to become too enthusiastic.
Oh, please, please, let's sing the song. I promise not to shout.
Very well, but quietly
Oh,
now.
Hanukkah.
I'll keep an eye on you, and when...
You! How many times I told you, out!
What's the matter with you? Haven't you any sense? Get that cat out of here.
Cat?
You heard me. Get it out of here.
I have no cat.
It doesn't need to be the cat. His clothes are enough. When he comes out of that room...
Don't worry. You won't be bothered anymore. We're getting rid of it.
At last, you listen to me.
I'm not doing it for you. That's all in your mind. All of it. I'm doing it because I'm sick of seeing that cat eat all our food.
That's not true. I only give him bones, scraps.
Don't tell me. He gets fatter every day. Damn cat looks better than any of us. Out he goes tonight.
No!
Mr. Von Don, you can't do that. That's Peter's cat. Peter loves that cat.
Anne.
If he goes, I go.
Go.
You're not going and the cat's not going. Now, please, this is Hanukkah. Hanukkah. This is the time to celebrate. What's the matter with all of you? Come on, Ann. Let's have the song.
Oh, Hanukkah, the sweet celebration.
I think we should first blow out the candle. Then we'll have something for tomorrow night.
But, Father, you're supposed to let it burn itself out.
I'm sure that God understands shortages. Praised be thou, O Lord our God, who hast sustained us and permitted us to celebrate this joyous festival.
He is about to blow out the candle, when suddenly there is a crash of something falling below. They all freeze in horror, motionless. For a few seconds there is complete silence. Mr. Frank slips off his shoes. The others noiselessly follow his example. Mr. Frank turns out a light near him. He motions to Peter to turn off the center lamp. Peter tries to reach it, realizes he cannot, and gets up on a chair. Just as he is touching the lamp, he loses his balance. The chair goes out from under him. He falls. The iron lampshade crashes to the floor. There is a sound of feet below, running down the stairs.
God almighty. Do you hear anything?
No. I think they've gone.
It's the Green Police. They found us.
If they had, they wouldn't have left. They'd be up here by now.
I know it's the Green Police. They've gone to get help, that's all. They'll be back.
Or it may have been the Gestapo looking for papers.
Or a thief looking for money.
We've got to do something quick, before they come back.
There isn't anything to do. Just wait.
Mr. Frank holds up his hand for them to be quiet. He is listening intently. There is complete silence as they all strain to hear any sound from below. Suddenly Anne begins to sway. With a low cry, she falls to the floor in a faint. Mrs. Frank goes to her quickly, sitting beside her on the floor and taking her in her arms.
Get some water, please. Get some water.
No. No one's going to run water.
If they found us, they found us. Get the water. I'm going down.
No, Father, no. There may be someone there, waiting. It may be a trap.
This is Saturday. There's no way for us to know what has happened until Meep or Mr. Crawler comes on Monday morning. We cannot live with this uncertainty.
Don't go, Father.
Hush, darling, hush. Margot, stay close to me.
Shh.
Pootie, where's our money? Get our money. I hear you can buy the Green Police off so much ahead. Go upstairs quick. Get the money.
Keep still.
Do you want to be dragged off to a concentration camp? Are you going to stand there and wait for them to come up and get you? Do something, I tell you.
Will you keep still?
Someone go after Father. Make Father come back.
I'll go.
Haven't you done enough?
I lift up mine eyes.
Please, Mr. Von Don, get Father.
Quiet.
I lift up mine eyes unto the mountains, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will
It was a
not
thief. That noise must have scared him away.
Thank God.
He took the cash box and the radio. He ran away in such a hurry that he didn't stop to shut the street door. It was swinging wide open.
Oh, thank God.
I think it would be good to have some light.
Are you sure it's all right?
The danger has passed. Don't be so terrified, Anne. We're safe.
Who says the danger is past? Don't you realize we are in greater danger than ever?
Mr. Dussel, will you be still?
Thanks to this clumsy fool, there's someone now who knows we're up here. Someone now knows we're up here hiding.
Someone knows we're here, yes. But who is the someone? A thief. A thief! You think a thief is going to go to the Green Police and say, I was robbing a place the other night, and I heard a noise up over my head. You think a thief is going to do that?
Yes, I think he will.
You're crazy!
I think someday he'll be caught, and then he'll make a bargain with the Green Police. If they'll let him off, he'll tell them where some Jews are hiding.
He's right.
Father, let's get out of here. We can't stay here now. Let's go.
Go? Where?
Yes, where?
Have we lost all faith? All courage? A moment ago, we thought that they'd come for us. We were sure it was the end, but it wasn't the end. We're alive. Safe. We thank thee, O Lord our God, that in thy infinite mercy thou hast again seen fit to spare us. Come on. The song. Let's have the song.
Oh, Hanukkah, the sweet celebration. Around the feast we gather in complete jubilation. Happiest of seasons now is here. Many are the reasons for good cheer. Together we'll weather whatever
whatever tomorrow may bring. So hear us rejoicing and merrily voicing the Hanukkah song that we sing. Hey! Hear us rejoicing and merrily voicing the Hanukkah song that we sing.
Act 2, Scene 1. In the darkness we hear Anne's voice, again reading from the diary.
Saturday, the 1st of January, 1944. Another new year has begun, and we find ourselves still in our hiding place. We have been here now for 1 year, 5 months, and 25 days. It seems that our life is at a standstill.
The curtain rises on the scene. It is late afternoon. Everyone is bundled up against the cold. In the main room, Mrs. Frank is taking down the laundry which is hung across the back. Mr. Frank sits in the chair down left, reading. Margot is lying on the couch with a blanket over her and the many-colored knitted scarf around her throat. Anne is seated at the center table, writing in her diary. Peter, Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan, and Dussel are all in their own rooms, reading or lying down. As the lights dim on, Anne's voice continues, without a break.
We are all a little thinner. The Van Daan's discussions are as violent as ever. Mother still does not understand me, but then I don't understand her either. There is one great change, however, a change in myself. I read somewhere that girls of my age don't feel quite certain of themselves, that they become quiet within and begin to think of the miracle that is taking place in their bodies. I think that what is happening to me is so wonderful, not only what can be seen, but what is taking place inside. Each time it has happened, I have a feeling that I have a sweet secret. And in spite of any pain, I long for the time when I shall feel that secret within me again.
It's Meep.
Wake up, everyone. Meep is here. Meep and Mr. Crawler, what a delightful surprise.
We came to bring you New Year's greetings.
You shouldn't. You should have at least one day to yourselves.
Don't say that. It's so wonderful to see them. I can smell the wind and the cold on your clothes.
There you are. How are you, Margot? Feeling any better?
I'm all right.
We filled her full of every kind of pill so she won't cough and make a noise.
Well, hello, Meep, Mr. Crawler.
With my hope for peace in the new year.
Meep, have you seen Mushi? Have you seen him anywhere around?
I'm sorry, Peter. I asked everyone in the neighborhood had they seen a gray cat, but they said no.
Look what Meep's brought for us.
A cake!
A cake! I'll get some plates.
Thank you, Meepia. You shouldn't have done it. You must have used all of your sugar ration for weeks. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's been ages since I even saw a cake. Not since you brought us one last year. Remember? Don't you remember you gave us one on New Year's Day, just this time last year? I'll never forget it because you had Peace in 1943 on it. Peace in 1944.
Well, it has to come sometime, you know. Hello, Mr. Dussel.
How are you?
Here's the knife, Leafia. Now, how many of us are there?
None for me, thank you.
Oh, please. You must.
I couldn't.
Good. That leaves 1, 2, 3, 7 of us.
8! 8! It's the same number as it always is.
I left Margot out. I take it for granted Margot won't eat any.
Why wouldn't she?
I think it won't harm her.
All right, all right. I just didn't want her to start coughing again, that's all.
And please, Mrs. Frank should cut the cake.
What's the difference?
It's not Mrs. Frank's cake, is it, Meep? It's for all of us.
Mrs. Frank divides things better.
What are you trying to say?
Oh, come on, stop wasting time.
Don't I always give everybody exactly the same? Don't I?
Forget it, Carolee.
No, I want an answer. Don't I?
Yes, everybody gets exactly the same. Except Mr. Van Daan always gets a little bit more.
That's a lie.
Please, please. See what a little sugar cake does to us? It goes right to our heads.
Here you are, Mrs. Frank.
Thank you. Are you sure you won't have some?
No, really, I have to go in a minute.
Maybe Mushi went back to our house. They say that cats... Do you ever get over there? I mean, do you suppose you could...
I'll try, Peter. The first minute I get, I'll try. But I'm afraid, with him gone a week...
Make up your mind. Already someone has had a nice big dinner from that cat.
This is delicious, Mead.
Delicious.
Dirk's in luck to get a girl who can bake like this.
I have to run. Dirk's taking me to a party tonight.
How heavenly! Remember now what everyone is wearing and what you have to eat and everything, so you can tell us tomorrow?
I'll give you a full report. Goodbye, everyone.
Just a minute. There's something I'd like you to do for me.
Pootie, where are you going? What do you want? Pootie, what are you going to do?
What's wrong?
Father says he's going to sell her fur coat. She's crazy about that old fur coat.
Is it possible? Is it possible that anyone is so silly as to worry about a fur coat in times like this?
It's none of your darn business. And if you say one more thing, I'll take you and I mean it.
No, no, no! Don't you dare take that. You hear? It's mine. My father gave me that. You didn't give it to me. You have no right. Let go of it. You hear?
Just a little discussion over the advisability of selling this coat. As I have often reminded Mrs. Van Daan, it's very selfish of her to keep it when people outside are in such desperate need of clothing. So, if you will please to sell it for us, it should fetch a good price. And by the way, will you get me cigarettes? I don't care what kind they are. Get all you can.
It's terribly difficult to get them, Mr. Van Daan. But I'll try. Goodbye.
Are you sure you won't have some cake, Mr. Crawler?
I'd better not.
You're still feeling badly? What does your doctor say?
I haven't been to him.
Now, Mr. Crawler.
Oh, I tried, but you can't get near a doctor these days. They're so busy. After weeks, I finally managed to get one on the telephone. I told him I'd like an appointment. I wasn't feeling very well. You know what he answers? Over the telephone. Stick out your tongue. I have some contracts here. I wonder if you'd look over them with me.
Of course.
If we could go downstairs. Will you forgive us? I won't keep him but a minute.
What's happened? Something's happened. Hasn't it, Mr. Crawler?
No, really. I want your father's advice.
Something's gone wrong. I know it.
If it's something that concerns us here, it's better that we all hear it.
But the children...
What they'd imagine would be worse than any reality.
It's a man in the storeroom. I don't know whether or not you remember him. Carl, about 50, heavy-set, nearsighted. He came with us just before you left.
He was from Utrecht?
That's the man. A couple of weeks ago, when I was in the storeroom, he closed the door and asked me, "How's Mr. Franck? What do you hear from Mr. Franck?" I told him I only knew there was a rumor that you were in Switzerland. He said he'd heard that rumor too, but he thought I might know something more. I didn't pay any attention to it. But then a thing happened yesterday. He'd brought some invoices to the office for me to sign. As I was going through them, I looked up. He was standing, staring at the bookcase. Your bookcase. He said he thought he remembered a door there. Wasn't there a door there that used to go up to the loft? Then he told me he wanted more money, 20 guilders more a week.
Blackmail.
20 guilders? Very modest blackmail.
That's just the beginning.
You know what I think? He was the thief who was down there that night. That's how he knows we're here.
How was it left? What did you tell him?
I said I had to think about it. What shall I do? Pay him the money? Take a chance on firing him? Or what? I don't know.
For God's sake, don't fire him. Pay him what he asks. Keep him here where you can have your eye on him.
Is it so much that he's asking? What are they paying nowadays?
He could get it in a war plant, but this isn't a war plant. Mind you, I don't know if he really knows or if he doesn't know.
Offer him half. Then we'll soon find out if it's blackmail or not.
And if it is, we've got to pay it, haven't we? Anything he asks, we've got to pay.
Let's decide that when the time comes.
This may be all my imagination. You get to a point these days where you suspect everyone and everything. Again and again, on some simple look or word, I found myself...
There's the telephone. What does that mean, the telephone ringing on a holiday?
That's my wife. I told her I had to go over some papers in my office, to call me there when she got out of church. I'll offer him half then. Goodbye. We'll hope for the best.
Goodbye, Mr. Crawler.
Goodbye.
You can thank your son for this, smashing the light. I tell you, it's just a question of time now.
Sometimes I wish the end would come. Whatever it is.
Margot!
Then at least we'd know where we were.
You should be ashamed of yourself talking that way. Think how lucky we are. Think of the thousands dying in the war every day. Think of the people in concentration camps.
What's the good of that? What's the good of thinking of misery when you're already miserable? That's stupid.
Anne?
We're young. Margot and Peter and I. You grown-ups have had your chance. But look at us. If we begin thinking of all the horror in the world, we're lost. We're trying to hold on to some kind of ideals when everything, ideals, hopes, everything are being destroyed. It isn't our fault that the world is in such a mess. We weren't around when all this started, so don't try to take it out on us.
She talks as if we started the war. Did we start the war?
She left her cake.
He starts for Anne's room with the cake. There is silence in the main room. Mrs. Van Daan goes up to her room, followed by Mr. Van Daan. Dussel stays looking out the window. Mr. Frank brings Mrs. Frank her cake. She eats it slowly, without relish. Mr. Frank takes his cake to Margot and sits quietly on the sofa beside her. Peter stands in the doorway of Anne's darkened room, looking at her, then makes a little movement to let her know he is there. Anne sits up quickly, trying to hide the signs of her tears. Peter holds out the cake to her.
You left this.
Thanks.
I thought you were fine just now. You know just how to talk to them. You know just how to say it. I'm no good. I never can think, especially when I'm mad. That Dussel, when he said that about Mushi, someone eating him, all I could think is, I wanted to hit him. I wanted to give him such that he'd... That's what I used to do when there was an argument at school. That's the way But here, and an old man like that, it wouldn't be so good.
You're making a big mistake about me. I do it all wrong. I say too much. I go too far. I hurt people's feelings.
I think you're just fine. What I want to say, if it wasn't for you around here, I don't know. What I mean...
Do you mean it, Peter? Do you really mean it?
I said it, didn't I?
Thank you, Peter.
You've got quite a collection.
Wouldn't you like some in your room? I could give you some. Heaven knows you spend enough time in there, doing heaven knows what.
It's easier. A fight starts or an argument. I duck in there.
You're lucky. Having a room to go to? His lordship is always here. I hardly ever get a minute alone. When they start in on me, I can't duck away. I have to stand there and take it.
You gave some of it back just now.
I get so mad. They form their opinions about everything. But we're still trying to find out. We have problems here that no other people our age have ever had. And just as you think you've solved them, something comes along and bang, you have to start all over again.
At least you've got someone you can talk to.
Not really. Mother, I never discuss anything serious with her. She doesn't understand. Father's all right. We can talk about everything. Everything but one thing, Mother. He simply won't talk about her. I don't think you can be really intimate with anyone if he holds something back, do you?
I think your father's fine.
Oh, he is, Peter. He is. He's the only one who's ever given me the feeling that I have any sense. But anyway, nothing can take the place of school and play and friends of your own age. Or near your age. Can it?
I suppose you miss your friends and all.
It isn't just... Isn't it funny? You and I. Here we've been seeing each other every minute for almost a year and a half, and this is the first time we've ever really talked. Helps a lot to have someone to talk to, don't you think? It helps you to let off steam.
Well, anytime you want to let off steam, you can come into my room.
I can get up an awful lot of steam. You'll have to be careful how you say that.
Oh, it's all right with me.
Do you mean it?
I said it, didn't I?
We've had bad news. The people from whom Meep got our ration books have been arrested, so we have had to cut down on our food. Our stomachs are so empty that they rumble and make strange noises, all in different keys. Mr. Von Don's is deep and low like a bass fiddle. Mine is high, whistling like a flute. As we all sit around waiting for supper, it's like an orchestra tuning up. It only needs Toscanini to raise his baton, and we'd be off in the ride of the Valkyries. Monday the 6th of March, 1944. Mr. Crawler is in the hospital. It seems he has ulcers. Pim says we are his ulcers. Meep has to run the business and us too. The Americans have landed on the southern tip of Italy. Father looks for a quick finish to the war. Mr. Dussel is waiting every day for the warehouse man to demand more money. Have I been skipping too much from one subject to another? I can't help it. I feel that spring is coming. I feel it in my whole body and soul. I feel utterly confused. I am longing, so longing, for everything. For friends. For someone to talk to. Someone who understands. Someone young, who feels as I do.
Scene 2. It is evening, after supper. From outside we hear the sound of children playing. The grown-ups, with the exception of Mr. Van Daan, are all in the main room. Mrs. Frank is doing some mending. Mrs. Van Daan is reading a fashion magazine. Mr. Frank is going over business accounts. Dussel, in his dentist's jacket, is pacing up and down, impatient to get into his bedroom. Mr. Van Daan is upstairs, working on a piece of embroidery in an embroidery frame. In his room, Peter is sitting before the mirror, smoothing his hair. As the scene goes on, he puts on his tie, brushes his coat, and puts it on, preparing himself meticulously for a visit from Anne. On his wall are now hung some of Anne's motion picture stars. In her room, Anne too is getting dressed. She stands before the mirror in her slip, trying various ways of dressing her hair. Margot is seated on the sofa, hemming a skirt for Anne to wear. In the main room, Dussel can stand it no longer. He comes over, rapping sharply on the door of his and Anne's bedroom.
No, Mr. Dussel, I am not dressed yet. How is that? How does that look?
Fine.
You didn't even look.
Of course I did. It's fine.
Margot, tell me, am I terribly ugly?
Oh, stop fishing.
No, tell me.
Of course you're not. You've got nice eyes. And a lot of animation. And you're
a little vague, aren't you?
May I come in?
Come in, Mother.
Dr. Dussel's impatient to get in here.
Heavens, he takes the room for himself the entire day.
Anne, dear, you're not going in again tonight to see Peter.
That is my intention.
But you've already spent a great deal of time in there today.
I was in there exactly twice. Once to get the dictionary and then 3/4 of an hour before supper.
Aren't you afraid you're disturbing him?
Mother, I have some intuition.
Then may I ask you this much, Anne? Please don't shut the door when you go in.
You sound like Mrs. Von Daan.
No, I don't mean to suggest anything wrong. I only wish that you wouldn't expose yourself to criticism, that you wouldn't give Mrs. Van Daan the opportunity to be unpleasant.
Mrs. Von Daan doesn't need an opportunity to be unpleasant.
Everyone's on edge, worried about Mr. Crawler. This is one more
I'm
thing.
sorry, Mother. I'm going to Peter's room. I'm not going to let Petronella Von Daan spoil our friendship.
Why don't you two talk in the main room? It'd save a lot of trouble. It's hard on Mother having to listen to those remarks from Mrs. Von Daan and not say a word.
Why doesn't she say a word? I think it's ridiculous to take it and take it.
You don't understand Mother at all, do you? She can't talk back. She's not like you. It's just not in her nature to fight back.
Anyway, the only one I worry about is you. I feel awfully guilty about you.
What about?
I mean, every time I go into Peter's room, I have a feeling I'm maybe hurting you. I know if it were me, I'd be wild. I'd be desperately jealous if it were me.
Well, I'm not.
You don't feel badly? Really? Truly, you're not jealous.
Of course I'm jealous. Jealous that you've got something to get up in the morning for. But jealous of you and Peter? No.
Maybe there's nothing to be jealous of. Maybe he doesn't really like me. Maybe I'm just taking the place of his cat. Wouldn't you like to come in with us?
I have a book.
Will you please let me in my room?
Just a minute, dear Mr. Dussel. Well, here I go. To run the gauntlet.
Thank you so much.
My God, look at her. I don't know what good it is to have a son. I never see him. He wouldn't care if I killed myself. Just a minute, Anne. I'd like to say a few words to my son. Do you mind? Peter, I don't want you staying up till all hours tonight. You've got to have your sleep. You're a growing boy, you hear?
Anne won't stay late. She's going to bed promptly at 9. Aren't you, Anne?
Yes, Mother. May we go now?
Are you asking me? I didn't know I had anything to say about it.
Listen for the chimes, Anne, dear.
In my day, it was the boys who called on the girls, not the girls on the boys.
You know how young people like to feel that they have secrets. Peter's room is the only place where they can talk.
Talk? That's not what they called it when I was young.
Aren't they awful? Aren't they impossible? Treating us as if we were still in the nursery.
Don't let it bother you. It doesn't bother me.
I suppose you can't really blame them. They think back to what they were like at our age. They don't realize how much more advanced we are. When you think what wonderful discussions we've had. Oh, I forgot. I was going to bring you some more pictures.
Oh, these are fine, thanks.
Don't you want some more? Meep just brought me some new ones.
Maybe later.
I remember when I got that. I won it. I bet Yopi that I could eat 5 ice cream cones. We'd all been playing ping pong. We used to have heavenly times. We'd finish up with ice cream at the Delphi or the Oasis where Jews were allowed. There'd always be a lot of boys. We'd laugh and joke. I'd like to go back to it for a few days or a week. But after that, I know I'd be bored to death. I think more seriously about life now. I want to be a journalist. Or something. I love to write. What do you want to do?
I thought I might go off someplace. Work on a farm or something. Some job that doesn't take much brains.
You shouldn't talk that way. You've got the most awful inferiority complex.
I know I'm not smart.
That isn't true. You're much better than I am in dozens of things. Arithmetic and algebra and... Well, you're a million times better than I am in algebra. You like Margot, don't you? Right from the start you liked her much better than me.
Oh, I don't know.
It's all right. Everyone feels that way. Margot's so good. She's sweet and bright and beautiful, and I'm not.
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, no, I'm not. I know that. I know quite well that I'm not a beauty. I never have been and never shall be.
I don't agree at all. I think you're pretty.
That's not true.
And another thing, you've changed. From at first, I mean.
I have?
I used to think you were awful noisy.
And what do you think now, Peter? How have I changed?
Well, you're quieter.
I'm glad you don't just hate me.
I never said that.
I bet when you get out of here, you'll never think of me again.
That's crazy.
When you get back with all of your friends, you're going to say, now what did I ever see in that Mrs. Quack Quack?
I haven't got any friends.
Oh, Peter, of course you have. Everyone has friends.
Not me. I don't want any. I get along all right without them.
Does that mean you can get along without me? I think of myself as your friend.
No. If they were all like you, it'd be different.
Peter, did you ever kiss a girl?
Yes. Once.
That picture's crooked. Was she pretty?
Huh?
The girl that you kissed?
I don't know. I was blindfolded. It was at a party. One of those kissing games.
Oh. I don't suppose that really counts, does it?
It didn't with me.
I've been kissed twice. Once a man I'd never seen before kissed me on the cheek when he picked me up off the ice and I was crying. And the other was Mr. Coufuis, a friend of Father's who kissed my hand. You wouldn't say those counted, would you?
I wouldn't say so.
I know almost for certain that Margot would never kiss anyone, unless she was engaged to them. And I'm sure, too, that Mother never touched a man before Pim. But I don't know. Things are so different now. What do you think? Do you think a girl shouldn't kiss anyone except if she's engaged or something? It's so hard to try to think what to do when here we are with the whole world falling around our ears. And you think, well, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and what do you think?
I suppose it'd depend on the girl. Some girls, anything they do is wrong. But others, well, it wouldn't necessarily be wrong with them. I've always thought that when two people...
9 o'clock, I have to go.
That's right.
Good night.
You won't let them stop you coming?
No. Sometime I might bring my diary. There are so many things in it that I want to talk over with you. There's a lot about you.
What kind of thing?
I wouldn't want you to see some of it. I thought you were a nothing, just the way you thought about me.
Did you change your mind the way I changed my mind about you?
Well, you'll see.
For a second, Anne stands looking up at Peter, longing for him to kiss her. As he makes no move, she turns away. Then, suddenly, Peter grabs her awkwardly in his arms, kissing her on the cheek. Anne walks out dazed. She stands for a minute, her back to the people in the main room. As she regains her poise, she goes to her mother and father and Margot, silently kissing them. They murmur their good nights to her. As she is about to open her bedroom door, she catches sight of Mrs. Van Daan. She goes quickly to her, taking her face in her hands and kissing her first on one cheek and then on the other. Then she hurries off into her room. Mrs. Van Daan looks after her and then looks over at Peter's room. Her suspicions are confirmed.
Aha!
By this time, we all know each other so well that if anyone starts to tell a story, the rest can finish it for him. We're having to cut down still further on our meals. What makes it worse, the rats have been at work again. They've carried off some of our precious food. Even Mr. Dussel wishes now that Mushi was here. Thursday, the 20th of April, 1944. Invasion fever is mounting every day. Miep tells us that people outside talk of nothing else. For myself, life has become much more pleasant. I often go to Peter's room after supper. Oh, don't think I'm in love, because I'm not. But it does make life more bearable to have someone with whom you can exchange views. No more tonight. P.S. I must be honest. I must confess that I actually live for the next meeting. Is there anything lovelier than to sit under the skylight and feel the sun on your cheeks and have a darling boy in your arms? I admit now that I'm glad the Van Daans had a son and not a daughter. I've outgrown another dress. That's the third. I'm having to wear Margot's clothes after all. I'm working hard on my French, and I'm now reading La Belle Nivernaise.
Scene 3. It is night, a few weeks later. Everyone is in bed. There is complete quiet. In the Van Daan's room, a match flares up for a moment and then is quickly put out. Mr. Van Daan, in bare feet, dressed in underwear and trousers, is dimly seen coming stealthily down the stairs and into the main room, where Mr. and Mrs. Frank and Margot are sleeping. He goes to the food safe and again lights a match. Then he cautiously opens the safe, taking out a half loaf of bread. As he closes the safe, it creaks. He stands rigid. Mrs. Frank sits up in bed. She sees him.
Otto! Otto, komm schnell!
Was ist los? Was ist passiert?
Stiehlt das Essen!
You! Give me that!
Putty? Putty, what is it?
You dirty thief! Stealing food! You good for nothing!
Mr. Dussel, for God's sake, help me, Peter.
Let him go! Let go!
You greedy, selfish...
Putty, what is it?
The bread! He was stealing the bread!
It was you! And all the time we thought it was the rats!
Mr. Van Daan, how could you?
I'm hungry.
We are all of us hungry. I see the children getting thinner and thinner. Your own son, Peter, I've heard him moan in his sleep he's so hungry. And you come in the night and steal food that should go to them, to the children.
He needs more food than the rest of us. He's used to more. He's a big man.
And you! You're worse than he is. You're a mother, and yet you sacrifice your child to this man, this...
Edith!
Don't think I haven't seen you, always saving the choicest bits for him. I've watched you day after day, and I've held my tongue, but not any longer. Not after this. Now I want him to go. I want him to get out of here.
Edith!
Get out of here.
What do you mean?
Just that. Take your things and get out.
You're speaking in anger. You cannot mean what you are saying.
I mean exactly that.
For 2 long years we have lived here, side by side. We have respected each other's rights. We have managed to live in peace. Are we now going to throw it all away? I know this will never happen again. Will it, Mr. Van Daan?
No.
He steals once, he'll steal again.
Edith, please. Let us be calm. We'll all go to our rooms, and afterwards we'll sit down quietly and talk this out. We'll find some way to...
No more talk. I want them to leave.
You'd put us out on the streets?
There are other hiding places.
A cellar, a closet. I know. And we have no money left even to pay for that.
I'll give you money. Out of my own pocket, I'll give it gladly.
Mr. Frank, you told Pooty you'd never forget what he'd done for you when you came to Amsterdam. You said you could never repay him. That you...
If my husband had any obligation to you, he's paid it over and over.
Edith, I've never seen you like this before. I don't know you.
I should have spoken out long ago.
You can't be nice to some people.
There would have been plenty for all of us if you hadn't come in here.
We don't need the Nazis to destroy us. We're destroying ourselves.
Give this to Meep. She'll find you a place.
Mother, you're not putting Peter out. Peter hasn't done anything.
He'll stay, of course. When I say I must protect the children, I mean Peter, too.
I'd have to go if Father goes.
He's no father to you, that man. He doesn't know what it is to be a father.
I wouldn't feel right. I couldn't stay.
Very well, then. I'm sorry.
No. Peter, no. I don't care about the food. They can have mine. I don't want it. Only don't send them away. It'll be daylight soon. They'll be caught.
Please, Mother.
They're not going now. They'll stay here until Meep finds them a place. But one thing I insist on. He must never come down here again. He must never come to this room where the food is stored. We'll divide what we have, an equal share for each. You can cook it here and take it up to him.
Oh, no. No. We haven't sunk so far that we're going to fight over a handful of rotten potatoes.
Mrs. Franck, Mr. Franck, Margot, Anne, Peter, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, myself. Mrs. Franck?
It's Meep.
At this hour?
It is trouble.
I beg you, don't let her see a thing like this.
Anne, Peter, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan.
Stop it!
Myself.
Stop it!
Mr. Franck, Margot, Anne, Peter, Mrs. Van Daan, Mr. Van Daan, myself. Mrs. Franck?
You're keeping the big ones for yourself, all the big ones. Look at the size of that. And that.
Stop it! Stop it!
Mr. Frank, the most wonderful news. The invasion has begun.
Go on. Tell them. Tell them.
Did you hear that, everybody? Did you hear what I said? The invasion has begun. The invasion.
Where?
When? When, Meep?
It began early this morning.
Oh, Mr. Van Daan, did you hear that? How do you know?
The radio. The BBC. They said they landed on the coast of Normandy.
The British?
British, Americans, French, Dutch, Poles, Norwegians. All of them. More than 4,000 ships. Churchill spoke, and General Eisenhower, D-Day they call it.
Thank God it's come.
At last.
I'm going to tell Mr. Crawler. This will be better than any blood transfusion.
What part of Normandy did they land? Did they say?
Normandy. That's all I know. I'll be up the minute I hear some more.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
Pooty, what is it? What happened?
Please, I'm so ashamed.
Oh, for God's sake.
Don't, Pooty.
It doesn't matter now.
Didn't you hear what Meep said? The invasion has come. We're going to be liberated. This is a time to celebrate.
To steal bread from children.
We've all done things that we're ashamed of.
Look at me. The way I've treated Mother. So mean and horrid to her.
No, Annika, no.
Oh, Mother, I was awful.
Not like me. No one is as bad as me.
Stop it now. Let's be happy.
Here. Schnapps. L'chaim.
When I think of the terrible things I said.
No, you were right.
That I should speak that way to you, our friends, our guests.
Stop it! You're spoiling the whole invasion.
We're all in much better spirits these days. There's still excellent news of the invasion. The best part about it is that I have a feeling that friends are coming. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back in school by fall. Ha ha, the joke is on us. The warehouse man doesn't know a thing, and we are paying him all that money. Wednesday, the 2nd of July, 1944. The invasion seems temporarily to be bogged down. Mr. Crawler has to have an operation, which looks bad. The Gestapo have found the radio that was stolen. Mr. Dussel says they'll trace it back, and back to the thief, and then it's just a matter of time till they get to us. Everyone is low. Even poor Pim can't raise their spirits. I have often been downcast myself, but never in despair. I can shake off everything if I write. But, and that is the great question, will I ever be able to write well? I want to so much. I want to go on living even after my death. Another birthday has gone by, so now I am 15. Already I know what I want. I have a goal, an opinion.
Scene 4. It is an afternoon a few weeks later. Everyone but Margot is in the main room. There is a sense of great tension. Both Mrs. Frank and Mr. Van Daan are nervously pacing back and forth. Mr. Dussel is standing at the window, looking down fixedly at the street below. Peter is at the center table trying to do his lessons. Anne sits opposite him, writing in her diary. Mrs. Van Daan is seated on the couch, her eyes on Mr. Frank as he sits reading. The sound of a telephone ringing comes from the office below. They all are rigid, listening tensely. Mr. Dussel rushes down to Mr. Frank.
There it goes again, the telephone. Mr. Frank, do you hear?
Yes, I hear.
But this is the third time, Mr. Frank. The third time in quick succession. It's a signal. I tell you, it's Miep trying to get us. For some reason, she can't come to us, and she's trying to warn us of something.
Please.
You're wasting your breath.
Something has happened, Mr. Frank. For 3 days now, Miep hasn't been to see us. And today, not a man has come to work. There hasn't been a sound in the building.
Perhaps it's Sunday. We may have lost track of the days.
You were with the diary there. What day is it?
I don't lose track of the days. I know exactly what day it is. It's Friday, the 4th of August. Friday, and not a man at work. I tell you, Mr. Crawler's dead. That's the only explanation. He's dead, and they've closed down the building, and Miep's trying to tell us.
She'd never telephone us.
Mr. Frank, answer that. I beg you, answer it.
No.
Just pick it up and listen. You don't have to speak. Just listen and see if it's Miep.
For God's sake, I ask you.
No. I've told you no. I'll do nothing that might let anyone know we're in the building.
Mr. Frank's right.
There's no need to tell us what side you're on.
If we wait patiently, quietly, I believe that help will come.
I'm going down. Too late.
So we just wait here until we die?
I can't can't stand it. I'll kill myself. I'll kill myself.
For God's sake, stop it.
I think you'd be glad if I did. I think you want me to die.
Whose fault is it we're here? We could have been safe somewhere. In America or Switzerland. But no, you wouldn't leave when I wanted to. You couldn't leave your things. You couldn't leave your precious furniture.
Don't touch me.
Look, Peter, the sky. What a lovely, lovely day. Aren't the clouds beautiful? You know what I do when it seems as if I couldn't stand being cooped up for one more minute? I think myself out. I think myself on a walk in the park where I used to go with Pim, where the jonquils and the crocus and the violets grow down the slopes. You know the most wonderful part about thinking yourself out? You can have it any way you like. You can have roses and violets and chrysanthemums all blooming at the same time. It's funny. I used to take it all for granted, and now I've gone crazy about everything to do with nature. Haven't you?
I've just gone crazy. I think if something doesn't happen soon, if we don't get out of here, I can't stand much more of it.
I wish you had a religion, Peter.
No thanks, not me.
Oh, I don't mean you have to be orthodox, or believe in heaven and hell and purgatory and things. I just mean some religion. It doesn't matter what, just to believe in something. When I think of all that's out there, the trees and flowers and seagulls, when I think of the dearness of you, Peter, and the goodness of the people we know, Mr. Crawler, Meep, Dirk, the vegetable man, all risking their lives for us every day. When I think of these good things, I'm not afraid anymore. I find myself in God, and
That's fine, but when I begin to think, I get mad. Look at us, hiding out for 2 years, not able to move, caught here like waiting for them to come and get us, and all for what?
We're not the only people that have had to suffer. There have always been people that have had to, sometimes one race, sometimes another, and yet...
That doesn't make me feel any better.
I know it's terrible trying to have any faith when people are doing such horrible... But you know what I sometimes think? I think the world may be going through a phase, the way I was with Mother. It'll pass. Maybe not for hundreds of years, but someday. I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are really good at heart.
I want to see something now, not 1,000 years from now.
But, Peter, if you'd only look at it as part of a great pattern, that we're just a little minute in the life. Listen to us, going at each other like a couple of stupid grown-ups. Look at the sky now. Isn't it lovely? Someday, when we're outside again, I'm going to...
She breaks off as she hears the sound of a car, its brakes squealing as it comes to a sudden stop. The people in the other rooms also become aware of the sound. They listen tensely. Another car roars up to a screeching stop. Anne and Peter come from Peter's room. Mr. and Mrs. Van Daan creep down the stairs. Dussel comes out from his room. Everyone is listening, hardly breathing. A doorbell clangs again and again in the building below. Mr. Frank starts quietly down the steps to the door. Dussel and Peter follow him. The others stand, rigid, waiting, terrified. In a few seconds, Dussel comes stumbling back up the steps. He shakes off Peter's help and goes to his room. Mr. Frank bolts the door below and comes slowly back up the steps. Their eyes are all on him as he stands there for a minute. They realize that what they feared has happened. Mrs. Van Daan starts to whimper. Mr. Van Daan puts her gently in a chair and then hurries off up the stairs to their room to collect their things. Peter goes to comfort his mother. There is a sound of violent pounding on the door below.
For the past 2 years, we have lived in fear. Now we can live in hope.
Aufmachen! Aufmachen! Bruder, da drin! Aufmachen! Schnell! Schnell! Aufmachen! Schnell! Schnell!
The street door below is forced open. We hear the heavy tread of footsteps coming up. Mr. Frank gets 2 school bags from the shelves and gives one to Anne and the other to Margot. He goes to get a bag for Mrs. Frank. The sound of feet coming up grows louder. Peter comes to Anne, kissing her goodbye. Then he goes to his room to collect his things. The buzzer of their door starts to ring. Mr. Frank brings Mrs. Frank a bag. They stand together, waiting. We hear the thud of gun butts on the door, trying to break it down. Anne stands, holding her school satchel, looking over at her father and mother with a soft, reassuring smile. She is no longer a child, but a woman with courage to meet whatever lies ahead. The lights dim out. The curtain falls on the scene. We hear a mighty crash as the door is shattered. After a second, Anne's voice is heard.
And so it seems our stay here is over. They are waiting for us now. They've allowed us 5 minutes to get our things. We can each take a bag and whatever it will hold of clothing. Nothing else. So, dear diary, that means I must leave you behind. Goodbye for a while. P.S. Please, please, Meep or Mr. Crawler or anyone else, if you should find this diary, will you please keep it safe for me? Because someday, I hope...
Scene 5. It is again the afternoon in November 1945. The rooms are as we saw them in the first scene. Mr. Crawler has joined Meep and Mr. Frank. There are coffee cups on the table. We see a great change in Mr. Frank. He is calm now. His bitterness is gone. He slowly turns a few pages of the diary. They are blank.
No more.
I'd gone to the country to find food. When I got back, the block was surrounded by police.
We made it our business to learn how they knew. It was the thief who told them.
It seems strange to say this, that anyone could be happy in a concentration camp. But Anne was happy in the camp in Holland where they first took us. After 2 years of being shut up in these rooms, she could be out in the sunshine and the fresh air that she loved.
A little more?
News of the war was good. The British and Americans were sweeping through France. We felt sure that they would get to us in time. In September, we were told that we were to be shipped to Poland. The men to one camp, the women to another. I was sent to Auschwitz. They went to Belsen. In January, we were freed, the few of us who were left. The war wasn't yet over, so it took us a long time to get home. We'd be sent here and there behind the lines where we'd be safe. Each time our train would stop at a siding or a crossing, we'd all get out and go from group to group. Where were you? Were you at Belsen? Buchenwald? Mauthausen? Is it possible that you knew my wife? Did you ever see my husband? My son? My daughter? That's how I found out about my wife's death. Of Margot. The Van Dans. Dussel. But Anne, I still hoped. Yesterday, I went to Rotterdam. I'd heard of a woman there. She'd been in Belsen with Anne. I know now.
In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart.
She puts me to shame.